Another Founder Wisdom podcast, crypto edition, if you want. Today with the one and only Camilla Russo. I read her book, The Infinite Machine, which was about Mr. Vitalik Buterin and Ethereum and the team of co-founders that actually started that amazing project, that life-changing and world-changing project. So really enjoy your book. She's founder of Defiant, I also found out, and she's an ex-journalist, blogger for Bloomberg. So that kind of justifies the book. And yeah, really a piece of art, the book, Camilla. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for that. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your latest work?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm so glad that you like the Infinite Machine. That was kind of how I went very deep into the crypto rabbit hole and have really stayed here. And yeah, previously I was a reporter at Bloomberg News, covering all sorts of markets. It was in Argentina when I first heard about Bitcoin back in 2013. I was seeing how there was this growing Bitcoin community there as people were looking to protect themselves against inflation and currency controls. I thought that was fascinating. So I remained interested in crypto ever since, and then left Bloomberg in January of 2019 to finish writing The Infinite Machine, which is the first book on the history of Ethereum, and then started the Defiant with the aim to build a financial information platform for the future of finance. Kind of with my background at Bloomberg, I wanted to produce high quality, high standards financial journalism for DeFi, which I thought was very lacking in kind of in crypto media. There wasn't much focus given to DeFi back then. So yeah, that's how we started the Defiant. It was initially a newsletter, but now it's grown into a media company with daily news stories and podcasts and videos and of course the original newsletters and additional newsletters that we have launched since. So yeah.
Let's start with Argentina. Can you tell us about the shit show that's going on there with the inflation and how entrepreneurial folks are turning to cryptocurrencies? What's been your experience on the field? And tell us about stories that you've seen there of people really struggling with the inflation and using USD and or cryptocurrencies to stay afloat.
Yeah. So Argentina has this chronic problem of inflation and their devaluating currency. It all comes back to the Argentine government being very populist. So what they do is they promise more than they can actually spend, and so they overspend, and they print their way out of their financial mess. So they print pesos. They take out a lot of debt, and that devalues their currency, and that pushes inflation up, which means that everyday people's savings get eroded. When I was there, inflation was at like around 25%, 30%. Now it's the rate has gone even higher, like it's at 100% inflation. So it's really kind of spiraling out of control. And what's worse is that you're really stuck with pesos, even though they're devaluing, because the government doesn't let Argentines buy US dollars or buy foreign currency. And that's a real kind of mind-blowing concept. When I was there, I come from Chile, which it has its own issues, but at least it has a more financial freedom than Argentina. One day I was told, you can't buy dollars anymore. And I was used to always exchanging my Argentine pesos for dollars because of inflation. But one day the president woke up and said, this is banned. And I couldn't believe it. I went to my bank, like my online bank, and sure enough, like the option to exchange pesos for dollars just was not there anymore. And so in all this environment, like Argentines are used to this, like this has been part of their history for decades. They're used to going to the black market and buying dollars there at a much higher exchange rate than the official exchange rate. And it's the only way that they have to preserve their savings, because otherwise, if you stay in pesos, inflation means whatever you have in the bank is worth less and less and less. So everyone is just trying to get their hands on dollars however they can. So that's where crypto comes in. Crypto is a way to protect your savings, your investments against kind of this economic mismanagement of populist governments, because nobody can tell you if you can or cannot buy crypto. It's a permissionless currency that you can hold in a non-custodial wallet, and so it's free for everyone, and that's why I think it's truly revolutionary.
Yes, it is indeed, but also has its less good things. I think like a lot of people are using this to kind of hide money. I mean, if you lose your money, you lose your money, or if you lose your key, or if you do like a wrong transaction. So you really need to be educated on the matter before kind of going all in, like a lot of people do. But yeah, I could see like how revolutionary it is. Yeah, Argentina. It's quite flabbergasting to see people in power like not making good decisions at scale when these decisions affect so many people. It always surprises me, like, dude, don't you know that your decision will make the lives of like millions quite miserable? So it's interesting. And the populist thing that you mentioned, US is doing the exact same thing, right? Populist leaders and like Mr. T and printing money, just that their currency is pegged, so like it doesn't go to shit. But in Argentina, it's not pegged. No one cares really about the Argentinian pesos, except the currency trader, which I guess can make a fortune. I want to talk about your book, which was quite great. Ethereum, Vitalik. So what was the process of writing that book? Did you get to talk to Vitalik quite a lot? And how did that impact the writing of this book?
Yeah, so I was able to interview Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, twice for my book, and yeah, definitely kind of drove a lot of the narrative. Like I was able to hear from him firsthand what his thinking was when he created Ethereum, like why he decided to start this blockchain in the first place. And it's really fascinating. He of course is super smart, and has and is real kind of has proven to be a visionary. So he was very young, like at 18 years old, part of the Bitcoin movement back then, 2013 or so. There was only Bitcoin and kind of a few Bitcoin forks, but there wasn't much else in the cryptocurrency industry. And so he was a Bitcoiner. He kind of took a sabbatical or like some time off from university to go follow Bitcoiners around and see what they were building. And that's where he saw people were trying to make like all these applications on top of Bitcoin, like build exchanges and futures contracts and like all these different things. There was a thing called colored coins back then, that was trying to issue tokens on top of Bitcoin, but it was all very, very hard to do because Bitcoin is not really built for these sorts of applications. And that's, it was Vitalik kind of trying to help these teams building on Bitcoin that he realized, there needs to be something different. And he thought of making a blockchain with the added benefit of having a Turing complete computational language. So this is a computational kind of machine that can read all sorts of code. And so that was a big innovation that Ethereum did, and it's the first kind of smart contracts platform that can understand any code that you write on top of it. So I heard like all this story from him firsthand. It was really fascinating. I don't know, the one anecdote that he shared was he was in Tel Aviv working with the Colored Coins team. And to this day, like he loves just walking everywhere. Instead of using a car, using even public transportation, he loves walking. So I think there was like an hour-long walk that he had to make from like the office that he was working at and where he was staying. And it was like in these walks where he had this thought like, okay, like all of these Bitcoin teams, they don't want to make the thing that I am trying to do. So he said, screw it, I'll do it myself. And I just kind of really love that spirit about him. So yeah, and I guess, the rest of the book follows of, how he inspired a group of people to help him build this.
Yeah, what he created is just amazing. The Turing complete, but the speed of Ethereum and the concept and the vision behind it is just humongous. There's so many apps built on top of ETH right now, and super impressive little guy, genius type of. What have you seen in Vitalik and in Ethereum, the problems that they faced, fires that they had to extinguish? I believe they were hacked many times, one time at the conference. So lots of stress. And tell us about some power struggles amongst the DAO / the organization that they faced along the way.
Yeah, so it's the whole Ethereum story is full of drama. It's really fascinating. So early on, we were discussing this, but there were many Ethereum co-founders. So there were 8 different Ethereum co-founders, and two kind of different factions started to form in that group with different visions of how Ethereum should be built. So one was the thinking that Ethereum is a blockchain and then a foundation, like a not-for-profit foundation that is encouraging all the development around this permissionless blockchain. And then there was this other vision. And obviously, Vitalik was in the nonprofit foundation camp, Mihai Alisi, like, and other founders. And then there was the more kind of corporate, if you will, side, which wanted to make a for-profit company that was building on top of Ethereum. And so Charles Hoskinson was in this camp, and Amir Tetrit and other founders. And so that was kind of the first drama, like the first rift. So there was this big tense moment where all of the founders and team members congregated at a house that Ethereum had in Zug in Switzerland, what was known as the Crypto Valley. And they had this big meeting around that table where 2 of the founders ended up being kicked out. So Charles Hoskinson and Amir Tetrit were in the kind of for-profit company side, and that vision ended up losing out to the nonprofit vision. So they were, they had to leave the project. So that was pretty intense. And then, yeah, like other like really dramatic moments in Ethereum history, the DAO for sure, like you mentioned, the Shanghai attacks, a time where Ethereum was DOS attacked in the middle of, like, I think it was like their second DEF CON. So, Ethereum has like these big conferences every year. And it was like in the middle of this like big conferences where like the entire community is there and they're like celebrating Ethereum, that the attacker thought, it's a great time to make Ethereum kind of come down. So yeah, lots of drama there.
Very evil, very Sun Tzu war strategy like.
Yeah.
I want to talk about actual topics. Arguably, we're probably in one of the deepest point of the crypto winter. I'm not sure if it's going to continue like that. recently with SEC announcing that it's prosecuting Binance. Coin has also been like attacked, although less severely. I don't think they're going to move out of the States. You know, some people are saying, oh, they're going to go in Dubai or whatever. I don't think so, but tell us about what happened with Binance, because me, as soon as the FTX debacle happened, I knew that CZ was going to eat it too. Just for the type of moves and the type of person he seemed to be, and what he was portraying and so forth. I'm not judging him because he's not like guilty yet, and even that I need to have more data because I don't believe much in the judicial system to make rational and sound conclusions. They're obviously biased with our electoral and political system right now. But what are your thoughts on the recent attack of the SEC towards Binance?
So the Binance lawsuit, it's a couple of things. Like, on the main thing, that the main message that for me is clear from this is that, you know, if we're in crypto, we're here because we believe in a permissionless, open financial system where transactions are transparent. And I don't believe that centralized crypto exchanges are fulfilling that promise right now. So right now, the SEC is alleging that there were, movements between the Binance Crypto Exchange that were funneling users' funds into other entities controlled by CC. So that's one of the many allegations that the SEC is making. And to me, like, the most egregious, if that's true, it means that CC was, dealing and using and trading with user funds, very similar to what FTX was doing. Unfortunately, there's no way to actually verify because it is a centralized exchange. It's not following kind of the principles of crypto. Like, it's not transparent what was happening. So we have to kind of wait and see whether this can be verified, see what the Binance's reply is. Of course, they denied all of this, but I think, we need a more substantial reply to see if it was actually true. So, on the Binance case, I think there are serious allegations that any crypto user should be looking at and should be careful when trusting any third party with their funds. So that's one thing. But I think that's kind of separate from the bigger macro issue that's happening in the US, which is that regulators are really coming after this industry with these enforcement actions that don't provide any sort of regulatory clarity, that don't provide a framework for the industry to understand how to operate. Regulators are claiming that they're here to protect investors, but with things like, freezing Binance US assets, it just shows that that's really not the goal that they're after. If US regulators were actually out there to protect the US investor and individual, the best way to do that would be to provide clear guidelines for crypto companies to operate and to provide a safe service. Instead, companies are left in this gray area where nobody can register, and they need to be operating kind of in the shadows because there is, no way to operate crypto legally and legitimately. They're just left kind of on this limbo. So instead of making it clearer and more transparent for US investors, they're achieving the opposite. So it's just very unfortunate what's happening. So I think it's like, maybe Binance did do wrong, like maybe they were dealing with user funds in kind of in the wrong way. That could very well be true, but that's separate from the bigger issue, I think, which is just the lack of regulatory clarity in the US that's been going and ongoing for years, and I think becoming worse.
Right. You have 15 minutes more ahead of you.
Actually, I'm very tight with time because my nanny leaves now, and so I need to get my my 5 months old. But I can wrap up like maybe 5 minutes or so.
Okay, let's do 5. Because I fully agree with what you just mentioned, but the question rings in my mind: why are they playing that game, the regulators? And then the question might be, just because, just like Ethereum, there's faction wars. There's people internally that are like, okay, this might be promising for the US, this might be a gold mine for us. Then there's China, in the equation. If we don't do it, China's gonna do it, and so forth. And then there's people that are very much scared to lose power over the currency and so forth. So why are they playing this limbo?
It's really hard to say what the motivations are. There's some
Taxes, maybe
speculation.
taxes as well, because they can
No,
have
I
their
don't think
ends.
so. I don't think so, because like there's clarity on how to pay taxes for crypto. Like crypto are taxed like assets. So
But how can you
I don't.
track it though? How can you be sure that this person really did have or did not have these crypto dollars, VS Classic type of dollars, where every transaction is accounted for?
Because US crypto exchanges file to the IRS just like any other financial institution. So if you have money in Coinbase, Genesis, or whatever, Gemini, sorry, any like US based exchange, the IRS knows that you have crypto there.
Sure, but if I'm this drug dealer converting my USD into BTC, there's no one that can know that this BTC is mine.
I mean, if you're doing that on chain in a non-custodial wallet, no, but as soon as you convert that to US dollars, as soon as you turn your Bitcoin back to US dollars, then they'll know.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a tough question, right? Like, why are they doing that? Why are they blocking the innovation and the progress?
I think it's, again, like it's hard to say what someone's motivations are, what Gary Gensler's motivations are, but I think it's probably, there's different hypotheses. Like some people say that there's a very powerful bank lobby. Financial institutions in traditional finance don't want crypto as a competitor. So maybe they're lobbying different, Congress members in DC and just like pushing for this pressure on crypto. So that's, I think, a viable hypothesis. Another one, somebody was quoting an interview from Gary Gensler, or I think it was Gensler himself who tweeted this out. I can't remember where the source is from, but basically Gensler is saying, we don't need digital assets. We already have the dollar. Like we already have the US dollar. So it could just be like a policy from the US government to protect the value of the US dollar. Like it doesn't want any competition from Bitcoin or from digital assets against, what's kind of the reserve currency of the world. So maybe that's another option, another, potential reason. But if that's the case, then it makes, I don't know, it makes me very angry, to be honest, because I feel like that's not for Gary Gensler to decide what people should or shouldn't want or need. Maybe if he doesn't want to use crypto, personally, that's fine, but he shouldn't impose his views on everyone else. I feel that digital assets are needed because you can self-custody them. You can transact in a transparent way. You can build permissionless applications and protocols. You can do all these things that you just can't do with fiat. There's a reason why this technology was invented. So I think it's extremely arrogant and patronizing for Gary Gensler to be like, no, we actually don't need this. Like, we already have the US dollar.
Yeah, well, one clear problem is this gerontocracy, like people on top that accumulated power for quite a while, and they stayed in their comfort zone. Now they're like, oh, we're all good, we're financially free, and they don't live the reality of most people nowadays, and they're more conservative kind of, and they are not agile with technology, which is a recent development. And that's a huge problem, because how can you solve a problem if you don't understand the problem in the first place? So I'm still very bullish on crypto amongst anything that happened. I do think that people underestimate the power of human nature. Crypto side, government side, I think people should analyze a bit more how people think. I think that would help us think and spar ideas and make better conclusions, say the least, in this society. So thank you for coming on the pod, Camilla, today. Where can people find out more about you and the Defiant?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Camilla Russo. The Defiant is at Defiant News, and you can subscribe to our newsletter, our podcast, and our YouTube channel as well.
Love it. Thank you so much.